What's up, everybody? Big Jack and Glenn back here with a Bears video talking about last week's game a little bit, and then we'll get into the keys to a Bears victory in Week 10. Um, Last week against the Dolphins, the Bears narrowly lose a game 35-32, which they gave themselves a chance to win. Big reason behind that is Justin Fields and his spectacular play, especially with his legs. Also, you got to give some credit to Luke Getsy with his game plan. And then they did hit on some of these keys that I was talking about last week, Jack, and it gave them a chance. So last week I was saying you got to win the turnover battle. I don't think we did that because I don't know if we forced a single turnover. I don't know if we gave up any turnovers. Just I know we did have that block punt that Miami had, but turnover battle was kind of a non-issue. But at least in the first half, we were dominating time of possession. Part of that is because of the quick strike ability of Miami that we talked about. And then they were scoring TDs and not settling for field goals too many times. Like, obviously, there are certain scenarios, if you're in a 4th and 10 in field goal range, you take the field goal. But they went out and they scored touchdowns and not just field goals out there. It was beautiful. That was a game that, you go to or you watch on TV, and it's a loss, but it's like one of the most encouraging losses you could ever ask for. It was an absolute delight to be in that stadium. It was an absolute delight to watch that game. It's getting me really excited. I don't know if you can't tell, but there's energy coming out of this big boy over here. Jack, what are your thoughts on last week's game?
I couldn't agree more, man. It's a fun time right now. Probably the most fun it has been in quite a while. I mean, growing up when we were younger, some stellar defenses, that all, kind of ingrained in us that probably sort of made people fall in love with the Bears,
Yep.
other than location. But this is the first time in our lives we've had an offense that's moving the way it is. Um, 3 games in a row now where they've put up. I keep saying 3 games in a row. Technically, they didn't put up 30 points
Yeah, the one was
against
29, but
exactly
yeah.
29, and they went for two a couple times.
Yeah.
But this has happened 4 times in the history of the Chicago Bears franchise where they've put up this many points in this, many games in a row. So it's uncharted waters. I feel very excited about the future and everything, the direction that it's going with Justin Fields. And, like you said, I was impressed with the way that they did get sixes instead of threes against Miami. Um, Luke Getsy in particular. Yeah, like you said, a lot of what we did was, on the ground, mostly Fields with his legs. But once we were in the red zone, we caught everyone off guard
Oh
with,
yeah.
we kind of avoided the trend of what had led us to stall in the red zone when everyone was like, all right, we know they're just going to run it. So let's, hunker down and at least hold them to a field goal. We had 3 passing touchdowns, all pretty slick plays,
Yep.
2 touchdowns for Cole Kmet. You know,
My guy.
the guy's, touchdown rate is out of control these past 2 weeks. So, there's been a lot to be encouraged and excited about. Sucks to still lose,
Yep.
but, at this point in the season, now sitting at 3-6, you could kind of almost argue it's really the best of both worlds to see the team performing the way that it is while still in a losing fashion. But, tough for me, as we always say, to get behind the idea of a tank. So I always want them to get wins, and, hopefully that's what they can do this week against
Yeah.
Detroit.
So I would have liked to win there too because while it does make the draft pick higher in the long run, in the real long run, big picture, if they're pulling out some wins like that, you know what that would do for Fields' confidence? I mean, in really the team's confidence, that'd be incredible. So I'm with you. I don't get behind a full tank. Um, does it maybe make the loss a little bit easier, especially because you feel that pass to Claypool was a pass interference that didn't get thrown, and the following play, Fields throws a dime to St. Brown that just goes through his hands. So it's like it was as good of a loss as you could like ask for, to be honest. And then the other thing I wanted to add with the 3 weeks in a row of roughly 30 points and 29 plus, they're doing it against good teams. You know, they did it against the Patriots with Bill Belichick, who's, as you've talked about numerous times, his record against young quarterbacks is incredible. So they go to New England, they score 30 plus there. It could have been a 40 burger if Eberflus just pounded in that last touchdown. Um, or Getsy does. Whoever decided that. Then they go to Dallas, and maybe you can make the argument that yeah, they only scored 29, and they were playing chase the whole time because they were down, so they had to go out and score a ton of points. But Dallas's defense is pretty good. You still score almost 30, and then this week against Miami, Miami's an explosive offense, and the Bears like went blow for blow with them. So I mean, scoring a lot of points against not bad teams and looking passing the eye test at the same time, which is a huge thing. It's not like these old Bear teams where yeah they scored 28, but there was a pick six, a punt return, and shit like that. You know what I mean? Where it's like no, this was the offense doing this. Um, defense is going to be terrible the rest of the season. We talked about it, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to every Sunday now. Not that I am not anyways, but there's a lot of hope here in Chicago, and it's a beautiful thing.
You summed it up perfectly when you said that, um, given the draft position and whatnot, it kind of softens the blow of the
Yeah,
loss. I think that was a perfect way to say it.
yeah,
But I agree about Fields. Just him being in those positions where it is a tight game, the plays matter. Like we kind of mentioned it in the Minnesota game when they had their comeback, and I was like, that's one of the games we started to see Fields take some really nice steps forward. But we kind of alluded to the fact that okay, well, it's easy when you kind of are playing for nothing in a
right.
sense, right? You're down, whatever it was. You feel like there's nothing to lose
Nothing to
at that
lose.
point.
Yep.
There's not a lot of pressure on the situation. It's nice for him to be in these pressure-packed games where it's kind of back and forth the whole 60 minutes. And, he has that ball with a chance at the end to go get a win. You want to see him be the guy who can get it across the line when he, is backed in the corner where Miami finally says, okay, you're not going to beat us with your legs. You got to do it with your arm. Um, Makes the throw to Claypool was 1,000% a pass interference. I don't know if you saw the replay since you were
Did
at the game,
I watched
but
back the whole game?
the ref he was like
Yeah.
he was
He
so
didn't even
dumbfounded.
consider throwing it.
He didn't, not only did he not throw the flag, which whatever, I guess that's unfortunately part of the way that things go down the stretch. Sometimes they kind of choke on the whistle, but he like didn't go. You know how if it's incomplete, they like make the incomplete signal or something. He just like stood there and froze, like staring, because he knew what he should have done,
Yeah.
but he just I don't know. It was the weirdest thing, but he literally didn't even call it incomplete, didn't do anything, just stared there like a deer in the headlights. But that, and then of course the ball going through St. Brown's hand, tough to watch. That was an absolute dime. Couldn't have
Yep.
thrown it better if he had 100 other throws. So it would have been nice to see him complete that and or get that call and continue to progress down the field with a chance to win it. Just keep building in those moments. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And I think, like you said, it's never now when I'm watching the games, I'm never more excited for the Bears to get the ball. I get frustrated by how pitiful the defense is, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, who cares? Let's get Fields back out there and see what we can do.
All right, so now we look forward to this Sunday. Bears home game, noon game, playing one of the other worst teams in the league. I guess you might start moving the Bears out of one of the worst teams in the league. They're starting to show some on offense. Their defense is pretty pitiful. But the Bears playing the Detroit Lions at home, 12 o'clock game. We look forward to this week. You got the Bears with a pretty good offense, or at least it's been the last few weeks. The Lions have a decent offense as well. Both of these defenses are struggling. The Bears, especially as of late, with the trade deadline maneuvers that they made. Jack, what do you think you're looking at this week in terms of the game? And then maybe let's go into your first key to a Bears victory.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it's only the second time this season that the Bears are favorites. I
Okay.
believe they're 3.5 point favorites at home as it stands currently. Um, And, I guess I'll just jump right into a first key, which is something that you talked about in regards to the last game. Not necessarily, I don't think it's considered a turnover, but that blocked punt.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say special teams as far as a key to victory for this game. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Velus Jones was made inactive last week.
I did not know that.
Yeah, which was kind of a shock to me, considering I felt like they were trying to work him into the offense a little bit. Um, but he was inactive. Coach's decision was you're not going to see the field. You're not going to be part of the roster this week. And I think, I was frustrated with him at first, his costly mistakes on some of those dropped punts. But if you're not going to play this guy in the offense, or you're not comfortable playing him in the offense, and you drafted him in the third round, I need him out there returning kicks. I need him out there returning punts. You got to give him another chance. Maybe making him inactive was a little bit of a wake-up call to him. You're a rookie. You better get it together because, you're expendable. You can be out of this league quickly. So I hope Velus Jones gets another chance this week. I think the special teams need to give us something. No mistakes, no fumbles, no muff punts, anything like that. Take care of the ball on special teams, handle that, aspect of the game, and I think that it will lead to a, success out there.
I did not know he was left inactive, I should say. Wow. Doing that to a third round pick is kind of it's definitely an attempt at a wake up call, you would think. I haven't heard of any injury or anything like that, so it sounds more of like a coach's decision, like you said. Yeah, I mean, you would just like to see them go out and play a very under control game versus the Lions. You would think the Lions are one of the lesser teams. Go out, don't make any mistakes on special teams. Defense, show up and look like some semblance of a defense against the Lions. But yeah, let's not muff any punts. Let's not fumble the ball on kick returns. Let's execute the field goal team, which has pretty much all season. Cairo Santos has been a stud. Okay, I like the first key. Special teams. It's a slept on but very critical phase of the game. So special teams, don't make mistakes. Hold up your end of the game plan there. All right.
Key number 2, I'm going to go with Justin Fields. I want to see at least 200 yards passing.
Okay.
As much as we talked about is how excited we are about the direction and the way everything is going. I think we are both smart enough to know that it is not sustainable to always be doing it with your legs. I think part of it is, one of the phrases you keep hearing about Fields is, oh, they're finally letting him, play football instead of play quarterback, which I think is helpful. It's making him a lot more comfortable out there, which is leading to the success that he is having. But, and I understand it takes time. You still got to develop, and you need some guys around you where you can start trusting that arm. You develop more into that pocket guy while still having the weapon of your legs. But I think I got to see at least 200 yards passing. These, just north of 100-yard games aren't going to get it done long term. I'd like to see them, focus a little more on that pass game, actually getting the ball out. I know a lot of the runs are coming off of the pass game, obviously, with him in the scramble situation. But Detroit does not have a good defense. There should be guys open out there. Claypool, get him involved. Mooney, do your thing. Kmet, keep, progressing along. And let's get over 200 yards this week. Kind of hit him with a little bit of an air attack because we know more and more now teams are going to be sitting on that run game. They're going to be spying Fields. They're going to be trying to take away, that weapon that has started to carve other opponents up.
I respect the key. I see where you're coming from with the key. I could not disagree more with the key. My opinion of how the Bears offense has been the last couple of weeks, where he's not putting up stellar passing stats, but they're putting up 30 points a game. I don't care how you're getting it done. If you're being efficient on offense, just do it. Take what the defense gives you. If they're giving you these runs and you're capable of doing it, do it. You're saying it's not sustainable, and I get that thought process too. Guys like RG3 scare you. With obviously his injuries derailed what could have been a very awesome career. I don't know, man. I think I'm kind of switching my mental to be like, okay, he still put up 300 yards and scored 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns, whatever it was against Miami. Like, who cares how he did it? He did it. Maybe I'm the idiot, but
I don't think it's so much sustainable from a sense of injuries, of course,
okay,
but I think it's more of a long-term thing in the sense of,
just
you know,
developing.
Fields is still a very new commodity to the NFL
Gotcha.
and to tape and what other teams see and how they can go about defending him.
Gotcha.
I think as you get more and more tape on what he's doing with his legs now, I think that defensive coaches have proven over the course of time, which is, sort of why you could run down the list of all these mobile quarterbacks who never won a Super Bowl. Um, I get that that's a little antiquated, but it's just a fact. And I think that in these games that matter as the season moves along, things start getting more intense down the stretch, particularly once you are in the playoffs. I just think that these defensive coaches get the tape. They understand what they need to do to kind of neutralize that mobility, and they go out and do it. So my my thinking is more so that I think Detroit will, make a point to attempt to neutralize his legs. And it's one of I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. He's still going out and shredding people week after week. And I think Justin Fields has that similar type potential. I don't think he's there quite yet. I'm not ready to say that. But I do think, his ceiling is in the same area that Lamar Jackson is operating now. But I just think Detroit's going to make a point to not let him beat him with his legs. So I'm going to need him to go out and get me those 200 yards, and I think that'll lead him to a victory. But I agree with what you're saying in the sense too that you're putting up 30 points. You don't got to show me how you're doing it. Just keep going out and getting it done.
Okay, I agree with that. There's going to be adjustments that are made, especially you probably see early next season where a couple coaches maybe figured out, hey, if we do a couple things here, maybe we could really slow down Justin Fields' legs, and he'll be forced to throw the ball. I absolutely get that. I would love to see a 200 plus yard game this week. There's no reason they shouldn't. Detroit's defense is not a world beater. Love to see 200 yards through the air. I'd love to see also some of these wide receivers get a little more separation. Um, one thing that became very apparent, and we're probably talking about the best receiving core in the NFL right now. Maybe Bengals are better, maybe, but those Miami receivers, and maybe part of it is the Bears defense, but those Miami receivers were so fucking open all game.
Insane.
It was crazy, man. Every time they got thrown the ball, there was like a 6 yard open window where nobody was even close to touching them. It was
Dude,
crazy. But
even the stops they had,
yeah,
like that fourth down, dude was wide open.
yeah,
Tua just missed him. So
yeah. All right. Well, okay. Key number 2. Let's see 200 yards through the air. I'm all aboard that. Key number 3. What is it, Jack?
key number 3, I made the mistake last time I was in charge of the keys against the Cowboys. I said all my keys are sort of offensive because I'm not worried about the defense.
Yep.
I'm not going to make that mistake again this
Okay.
week. Detroit's offense was outstanding the first couple weeks of the season. They have regressed towards the mean quite drastically. They had like 12 of 13 quarters or something like that where they failed to score a touchdown in their past couple games. So I think that they're, similar to what I was just saying about Fields, maybe teams have picked up on what they were doing early in the year and have figured out ways to shut it down, whatever the case may be. But I think you got to go out there, turn Goff over, get him on the ground, play solid defense. Don't let him gash you. Um, so I guess it's not the most specific key. It's more just a general You got to go out and play defense, keep guys in front of you. Kind of the opposite of what we talked about last week. Hold them to threes instead of sixes. You know, go out there. Goff is not a good quarterback. He knows his days are numbered. Take care of business. Hopefully that young secondary can make some plays, get us the ball a few times, and they're able to run away with this one.
Absolutely. Defense got to play some defense. That's the way it works. I will say one thing that does have me worried for our defense this weekend is Detroit's offensive line is pretty solid. You know, their skill positions are meh, but Penei Sewell looks like a stud at left tackle, and Frank Ragnow's really good at center. So hopefully our defensive line shows a little bit more than they've been showing the last few weeks since Robert Quinn was traded. But I think that, and this is a totally separate topic, but I think that our front seven is in need of complete overhaul, and I think the rest of the season is going to be a little tough. All right, score predictions for the game.
I think we ride the heater, man. Detroit had Detroit had a solid performance against the Packers last week, but I don't know I keep picking the Packers. I keep losing. I don't know what's going on with that team.
Yeah.
But we don't need to dig into that too much. Their defense isn't that good. I think that at home, you know, I haven't looked into what the weather is going to be at all. I know that it's supposed to start getting pretty cold.
It's starting to get colder.
Quickly.
Yeah, it's starting to get colder. Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick to it. I think we narrowly escape, keep that 30 streak going. I'm gonna go Bears 31, Lions 20.
Okay, 31-20. I like it. So right now I'm seeing the weather for Sunday being a high of 38, but like relatively clear weather. Nothing too crazy. So it's going to start getting colder. 38's not cold enough to where it should affect either team too much. It's not a 10-degree game or whatever. All right, 31-20 is your pick. I like the pick. I think we're going to score 30 again. I really do. And I think we're going to win. I'm going to go 33-26. And it's not too much different than your pick, but they're gonna move the ball against our defense. I think we're gonna move the ball against their defense. The over/under's 48.5 right now. I think that's something that really should get eyed. I'm really mad at myself for not playing the mortgage bet last week on the Bears over, because that was the easiest over/under of all time. But Bears win. That's definitely the prediction here. I think we move to what would be 4-7. No, 4-6 with a win. Yeah, it'd be 4-6. I don't know how many more games we'll win the rest of the season, but let's just keep seeing the progression, especially on offense. Any last thoughts, Jack?
No, man. Just hoping they go out there and take care of business. We kind of talked about the draft positioning and whatnot, and how losses are kind of always softened at the moment because of that. But I don't want to lose to the Lions.
I don't want to lose either.
Yeah. Can't lose to the Lions, especially when you're, you are still building for the future.
Yes.
And even when you're, more than happy to get better picks and all that, well and good, you got to build a winning culture at the same time while you do it. You're at home against a putrid Lions organization, a bad Lions team. Go out there, take care of business, keep the offensive momentum going, keep building on some things, and come out of there with a W.
Absolutely. All right, I'll leave you guys with a bear down. And Jack, one time for the people out there.
Bears.
Bears.